Donald Trump smeared in court, Trump trial day 4. We know the person behind this is Matthew Colangelo, the same guy who worked for Obama before going over to Letitia's office to then prosecute Trump, then left Tish, went to Joe Biden's DOJ, worked there to create more onslaught against Trump in the other cases, then left Biden's DOJ and went to Alvin Bragg's office and is now prosecuting Trump there. Well, he submitted, in New York they call it a Sandoval motion, which is alleging prior bad acts that could be used against Trump if he decides to testify. And we covered this in detail, but I wanted to share with you, right, this guy worked on many of these cases, including the Tish James case, Matthew Colangelo. And he says we should use this case against Trump. E. Jean Carroll, that was by Roberta Kaplan. Trump versus Clinton, Trump Corporation that he brought. We got more Tish James cases, and all of this submitted by Matthew Colangelo. This is a smear list. And as we've talked about, it spirals, it compounds. It's like a snowball running down a mountain. They start one fake case, and then they say in every other case, Trump was found guilty of grabbing him by the purse. And so we should be able to tell every juror about that, right? Every time Trump gets penalized for violating the gag order for Engoron, like they want to talk about that, tell the jury about that so they can make this case that this guy's just like a legal monster. He's just out there breaking the law every which way. He can't wake up without breaking the law, right? He's a menace to society. And so that is the background. We read the full thing in detail, but in the afternoon session on trial day 4, Inner City Press is reporting we're back in the afternoon. Trial day 4. All rise. Again, this judge, oh gosh. All right. Judge Juan Mercan. All right, please be seated. All right, before we begin, says the judge, anything that we need to address? Prosecutor government stands up. He says, Your Honor, before the Sandoval hearing, we moved to seal 4 exhibits, including Michael Cohen's contacts. Trump's attorney, Emil Bove, stands up. He says, okay, fine, but they're also trying to seal trial exhibits, and there's some loud banging in the courtroom. Bang, 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 bang. What the heck is that? Nobody knows what it is. Maybe the dude lit himself on fire outside. We don't know. So Judge Mercan tells everyone, hey, sit down. Okay, I'm signing the order. And Emil Bove says, Your Honor, we object to Bragg, the government, raising the issues in their Sandoval notice. They start with Judge Engoron, okay? They cannot be used to cross-examine Trump if he comes in and testify. Now, that case is subject to a stay by the First Department, okay? We're already appealing all of this. And so they shouldn't get to use it because it's not a final judgment. Thanks for playing. Prosecutor number 2, nameless, who cares? Justice Engoron says, Your Honor, found persistent illegality. See how this happens? So all they need is one fake, useless judge to come up with a fake verdict, and then they can just use that in every other case. It's squarely in the wheelhouse of impeaching a witness. And Trump's lawyer mentioned a stay, but that's only a partial stay. And normally, this is about criminal convictions in Sandoval, we know, and this is civil, and so it's less likely to be misunderstood, right? So, like, we normally don't even do this, but because it's civil, they'll understand it. Now, Trump's lawyer, Emil, says, well, the second one, Your Honor, is Justice Engoron's gag order, the second one on the list, and it's a contempt finding. And so if that's true, why can't we impeach Michael Cohen with Judge Furman's findings that he's a perjurer? Government, he says, well, how about you, government? He says, well, the defendant lied to Engoron in a courthouse 200 yards from here, which was also a rigged case brought by Bigfoot Letitia. Trump's lawyer, Bove, says, okay, fine, I'll move on to the next issue. It's Judge Engoron's finding. This one's way too remote. Says, well, no, it's not. Engoron fined him for $5,000 because he was talking about his law clerk, Allison Greenfield, who was sitting on the bench right next to Engoron, and I don't know why they were doing that. And the bigger question in my mind has always been, why did they move the cameras away from them? If they were seated on the same level and there's no separation between them and you can't see what they're doing and they're up on a bench, you can't look up and really see where their hands are. We have a lot of concerns about what they're working on when the cameras aren't on them. It's just open question. I don't know what they're doing. Why'd they move the cameras? So it's strange that, it would be happening. And so Trump called that out and they fined him for it because, again, they fine you and gag you when you speak the truth. Trump's lawyer says, okay, well, let's go to the next one. How about now the Carroll case? We dispute those events happened, okay? We don't even think they happened and they're way too far back. Now, there are moving parts about what the government's case in chief will look like. We have questions about whether the Access Hollywood tape will be admitted. What is their theory of the case? We don't even know yet. No one knows. Government says, well, Your Honor, sorry, no, the exclusion of impeachment topics, if we can't impeach Trump on this, it could distort our whole process. And we have to talk about these cases. Our issues are related to defamation in 2019 and 2020. The statements were false, the jury found. And so he's liable for those. So next up, they say, okay, Trump's lawyer says, well, the next is Trump versus Clinton in Florida. This is another disputed judicial finding. So why should this be used to smear him in this case? Like, they want to parade all of this in front of the jury, right? Everything bad that has ever happened to you, they try to get it in front of them. Judge says, well, the court said that this lawsuit should not have been filed and it was brought in bad faith. And so that shows, your character for truthfulness. And this is within Sandoval because it's bad faith, and so they're allowed to talk about it. He says, Your Honor, it has a compounding effect, okay? There's another case named Bennett. He says, well, I'm not very good with case names, so just explain it to me. Well, there's then People versus the Trump Organization. As Your Honor knows, Miss Hoffinger, the government, said this case is not about Donald Trump, and so we're also appealing that one. And the government said, hey, Judge Merchan, you handled that trial, okay? Because it's the same people, right? It's the same individuals involved in a lot of this stuff. Judge Kaplan, Roberta Kaplan. We know we've got here Juan Merchan presiding on multiple trials, including this one. Same thing with Matthew Colangelo, bouncing around from office to office. So you've already heard that case, so you know what happened there. So probably admit that one too. And then Trump's lawyer says, well, there's also James versus the Trump Foundation. Now that was based on a judge's urging, and says that was not any admission at all. So you can't include that line item against us. Government says, well, the parties left open to the judge the question of whether Trump violated his fiduciary duty. So the judge says, okay. Thanks for going through all of those. Is there anything else on Sandoval here? No? Okay, you say these are all on appeal. Are you arguing that that means that they can't see these under Sandoval? He says, well, I'm not making that argument categorically, no, but they shouldn't see them because they are on appeal. Well, it says, I'm going to reserve decision. You'll have my decision in the morning. I think he'll let them all in, and then he'll say, you can address it on cross. So they'll on redirect, right? So if Trump takes a stand, they cross him with those, you can address it on redirect. Are those on appeal? Yeah, oh, they are. Okay. So Merchan says, and this is amazing. So yesterday we went through the margin madman Todd Blanche's motion. You remember that from yesterday's show. Absolutely insane what he did in his word processor. He took that margin. I think it's under 0.5. I don't know. You know that death warning you get in Microsoft Word when you squeeze those margins too small? It's like, are you out of your freaking mind? Do you know what you're about to do? You're like, I'm doing it anyways. Leave me alone. Oh, well, he did that yesterday. And he sent in these pre-motion letters, tiny font, ultra small margins. And we're like, wow, this guy's out of control. Absolute madman. So he submitted it. And now the judge wants to talk about it. He says, all right, I want to address your margins and your pre-motion letters. He says, on Michael Cohen's plea to the federal elections crimes, he says the people have yet to respond. Now the government says, Steinglass, he says, well, we don't need to respond to every pre-motion letter with another pre-motion letter. So that's why we didn't respond to it. And the judge says, well, you know, I'm tired of all these letters with tiny margins, okay, Todd? Defense cannot continue to submit pre-motion letters asking the court to reconsider each and every decision. At some point, he's got margins coming out of his earballs. You have to accept my rulings, okay? Opening statements are on Monday. The trial is starting already. Now, the people have a right to refer to what is on the Access Hollywood tape, so they can talk about it. They can refer to that tape. Todd Blanche says, Your Honor, the leak of the tape caused changes in preparing for the debate for Michael Cohen, and so we asked for clarification on that. Trump's attorney, Nicholas, Susan, stands up, says, Your Honor, we'd like the name of the first witness if we're going to be starting opening arguments on Monday. We're going to get right into witnesses that afternoon, I'd expect. So they have a list of 20 witnesses. We'd like the name of the first witness. Who are they calling? He says, well, you're not going to delay the trial if you know the name of the witness. You're going to file something. And the government says, we're not going to give you the names until Sunday night because Trump will tweet about it. And if Trump tweets about this witness, we will not give you another name again. Now, Judge Merchan tells somebody, says, okay, by the way, the contempt hearing is on Tuesday at 9:30. Sir, sit down. And then Judge Merchan leaves. Now, Trump walks down the aisle. He taps the wooden barrier as he passes. Trump walks out of the courtroom. Contempt hearing, 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, where we'll see if the judge wants to throw him in jail or fine him several $1,000s. After the day's events, the president came out, and here's what he said in the aftermath of another insane day in a ridiculous kangaroo court.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We just had another hearing, and the trial starts on Monday, which is long before a lot of people thought. The judge wants us to go as fast as possible. That's for his reasons, not for my reasons. And this is really a concerted witch hunt. Very simple. Everything you heard in there, this is a witch hunt by numerous judges, Democrat judges. You take a look at it, and Gorin is a whack job. What he did was a disgrace. It's being reviewed by the appellate division. And I hope they do justice because everybody's looking, and no business is coming into the city. None whatsoever. They're looking at that case. That case is a threat to democracy, frankly, what took place with the AG. A crooked AG, Letitia James, who campaigned on the fact that I'm going to get Trump. That's all she said for 2 years. And it's people don't want to see this stuff. where you have violent criminals all over the streets of New York and nothing happens. So even when they catch him, they let him go. No bail whatsoever. So this is just a concerted witch hunt, whether it's Judge Kaplan with a person I have no idea until they called and said they're suing us. I had no idea who this person was, or this judge, or if you look at Engoron, where he said that Mar-a-Lago, which if it was worth $1 billion or $1.5 billion, he said it was worth $18 million because that suited his narrative. But what's happening in this city and all over the country, but what's happening in particular in this city, some are very good, by the way, some are very fair. Those are really the cities that are thriving. But what's happening here with the judicial system is an outrage. And all over the world they're watching it, and all over the world they're saying it. This is a giant witch hunt to try and hurt a campaign that's beating the worst president in history. Biden's the worst president in the history of our country, beating him by a lot. And this is the only way they think they can win, but it's not going to work. Thank you very much.
So that's Trump. Busy day. We got a full jury selected, and we now know that they're going to do everything they can to smear him using the other fake cases as a jumping off point, right? Find one problem, get one judge somewhere to issue a bad order, issue a gag, issue an adverse ruling, say something bad, and then they can use it indefinitely, and other judges will say, well, another court found it. Engoron, one of the most illegitimate people ever to be in law, is now a citation in a litany of prior bad acts that they'll try to use. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends, as we talked about, as Mr. President talked about. We'll be back on Monday for oral arguments and opening arguments, my goodness, and we're going to hopefully see you here. And so thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come over here and join us as this trial unfolds. There's going to be a lot to attend to. We'd love to see you here and back here on the next one.